All right, everyone, available now from the Google App Store because Google apparently at this point has no problem with it. Smart Pakem, an Indonesian made app that allows people there to tell on one another if they have criticized Islam. Yeah, I wish I could say that I was joking. By the way, this report from Laura Loomer, actually through Big League Politics, link in the description. Very, very interesting that Google, which has a problem with, some app is mildly edgy. Like, remember when Gab tried to get on the App Store? They released two versions of their app. One that's basically, hey, this is Gab for mobile, and the other one saying, okay, this is the Google TOS conforming version of it that, unlike Gab, on desktop will censor certain things. Certain content won't be there. Have to click through, give you warnings and shit like that. And Google blocked them. They're like, well, it doesn't go far enough. It's too edgy for us, basically. But at least up until now, in the last few days, post, this revelation, they have no problem with an app whose explicit purpose is human rights abuse. According to most international charters, criticism of religion is generally considered protected, and yet you've got all these countries where blasphemy is illegal, and they've got something in common as to which religion is the majority there, for the most part. There are a few Catholic nations, I believe, in Central and West Africa that have similar laws. But like here in the United States, I criticize religion. And if I'm criticizing like Christianity or something, nobody really has a fucking problem with it. But all of a sudden, if it happens to be Islam, that for some odd reason, that one particular religion is considered more protected than others, it seems. And I have a big problem with the fact that any religion would be protected from any form of honest scrutiny. Like, if you're just sitting there and you're, like, making, like, religious porn or something, like pictures of Jesus doing things with animals or whatever, I can understand why these sites would just put them under the same, like, rules against porn or obscene, material or something. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's funny. But I can understand why. But routine, mundane criticism of a religion or religious figures, it's like criticism of Muhammad. There have been people who are banned on Twitter for criticizing a figure that lived over 1,000 years ago. I find that funny. And meanwhile, I know of not one person banned for criticizing Jesus, who, again, lived long ago, isn't around to care today, and people still talk about him like he's in the room with them. Poor fucking Jesus. So Google's saying, through its VP in Southeast Asia, apparently, that it has no problem with an app whose explicit purpose cannot be used for any positive reason. And think about it even further. Here's something else that I don't see talked about in relation to this. There's a Smart Pakem, or I think I'm pronouncing that right, app. What if it's misused even further? What if someone, falsely claims someone else is blaspheming in order to get them censored or deplatformed, honestly, because they will try to do that, or beaten, or just inconvenienced, like the blasphemy version of swatting or something like that. Can you imagine scenarios in which that might happen? Trust me, it will. It's like these citizen reporting tools that are being developed now. Sometimes they got really good purposes, like, hey, here's the app that allows you to very quickly report police brutality. It'll cross-post for you. It'll automatically start recording, and it won't let them shut it off. And this one will call a lawyer and stuff like that, like police brutality, government corruption. This area's, you've got map apps that show you areas that are known to have a lot of crime in them, so that people who are going through can avoid areas where they might, be killed or mugged or something. Those are all very good, but even then they can be misused. You could report the upstanding cop over there. Someone just doesn't like him, reports them for police brutality, gets him fired, or gets him investigated, or, you have a social justice warrior outrage mob shows up to their house like Tucker Carlson style and starts trying to kick in their door and terrify their kids and wife. You have such events that can happen. It's just like when, outrage mobs were targeting the crowds at Charlottesville. And some of the people that were profiled, they're like, hey, I'm not an identitarian. I wasn't part of that protest. I was on the sidelines, dude. Some of the people, I wouldn't be surprised if some people there were like actually social justice warriors protesting against Spencer and got profiled anyway, lose their job. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, my shitty 9-to-5, minimum wage job, I don't even have that anymore because of a mistake, because people went vigilante mode. So here you're saying Google would have a problem with all those apps. Because they racially profile, or it's too edgy, or the person who made it, they're a respecter of persons in some cases. The person who made it's problematic. They're not allowed to make the app. They might make money off it or something. Oh, it's free? Well, they might be using that to link back to other stuff they do where they can make money. That's not allowed. But they have no problem with a blasphemy policing app. I find that a little bit problematic, if you ask me. I think criticism of religion is part of the main spirit of the Western world. Look, our founding fathers, in the case of the U.S., sat around talking about religion constantly. Thomas Jefferson was like, yeah, it's probably like aliens, but we've got a clockmaker God. He doesn't give a fuck anymore. He gave us Jesus, saved us all, then he wandered off to make the next fucking planet full of weird life forms. He's too busy doing that. He's not listening to your prayers. Stop it. No, we shouldn't have a state church. Churches are less good than lighthouses, I think. Benjamin Franklin said something to that effect. I think the idea of being able to criticize religion was near and dear to them. Now, like 100 years later, of course, criticism of religion is taboo all of a sudden again. It gets away from the Enlightenment era values. In some parts of the world, though, there's no enlightenment when it comes to religion. The idea is that the state and religion, there's no separation. They're exactly the same, basically. If there's a secular state at all, it has to conform to that religion. The religion conforms to some of the cultural trappings of the state. This is a form of pure totalitarianism. This is a limitless, when you claim divine authority for your power, it cannot be limited in nature. Because you can make up some superstitious reason for why your God wants you to make some law or something. The idea is that should be criticized. The idea that anything should be beyond scrutiny and criticism is anathema to Western values. The very concept, not the First Amendment, but the concept of free speech. The concept of free speech that Google and similar U.S. firms in Silicon Valley should be operating under is basically, hey, yeah, people should be able to criticize religion all they want. They say, yeah, they should have, if they want to do a draw Jesus in an obscene manner day, that should be fine. Likewise, that's the same for every other religion, unfortunately. It seems like that for certain, I guess perceived of as exotic religions by U.S. and Western European standards or what the fuck ever, you're not allowed to criticize them in the same way that you would, even atheism now, which is funny because they lump it in with the far right often. Oh, it's problematic. It's like basically a sausage party, which maybe it's kind of true. I don't know, fedora tipping and shit. But certainly Christianity in various forms, mainline Judaism, not necessarily Orthodox, but mainline, and other similar groups. It's like, hey, no one cares. With other, again, with Islam, to some extent, certain smaller religions, you can't criticize them to the same degree, and you can even get in trouble in most parts of the world for doing so. Most of the world doesn't have protection for criticism of religion, actually. Even parts of Europe still, basically, it's kind of like a blue law. But even certain parts of Europe still have some statutes on the books that prevent certain criticisms of religion. I think they should all be struck down worldwide insofar as the internet goes. The internet should be, yes, run by the U.S., absolutely. And it should be run specifically by the First and Fourth Amendments. That's about all. Peace out.